just going to start by doing a glaze on this part here on both the outsides in order to create some sort of rounded. So I'm going to go for maybe a little bit of red on this glaze. And so it's going to be on the outsides, on both sides here. And what this is going to do is kind of create a rounded, make sure this form becomes a little bit more rounded. It's just really flat right now. In fact, I think I'm just going to grab a different brush. Something a little wider, probably do the trick. And when you're doing glazes, the secret is to make sure that the paint you use is very transparent. So if you have an opaque paint, make sure you dilute it with plenty of linseed oil or turpentine, or if you're using acrylic paint, gel medium. Hello everyone. So there's still this particular flower is not quite dry yet, so some of these blobs of white are still a little bit wet. That's not going to be too much of a problem though. Always plan for that to happen. And I'm going to add a little bit of this red glaze on the other side as well. It's going to go all the way up both sides to create that rounded look. And then I'm going to go back in after at the very end and add some more highlights into this flower. In today's session, I'm going to try to maybe finish these leaves, and then also I wonder if I can start on the background. We'll see how much time we have, but yeah, I plan on getting a fair amount done in this Friday night session. Our Friday night sessions tend to be fairly productive. So what type of flower? Yeah, I don't know. All of the elements in this painting are Australian. All of the flora and fauna are Australian. And I did know at one point, but unfortunately I've forgotten over the holiday break. This is a rainbow finch. I remember that. And these fruit are called kwandong. But the flower, I don't recall the species of flower. But yeah, all of the elements in here are Australian. And the reason is that this painting is going to my Australian gallery. I probably printed that. You're talking about this painting here? Does that look printed? Looks good. Do you regularly sell them when you're finished? Yeah, I do sell them. I have 3 galleries that represent me for my oil paintings, and 1 gallery that sells my photography. Is it fine if you try to make my account blow up? Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. Looks printed. Well, thank you for saying it looks printed. It's not. It only looks printed from this distance, that from the camera is about 2 feet. But I'm not a hyper-realist. I'm just a realist. And so with realism, the idea of realism is that it stops looking real when you get really close. So if I take and I show you really close, you can see all the brush strokes. It stops looking real and starts just, it returns to the idea of being a painting. So that's only about 2 inches away right now. But yeah, you can see how not real it is. It just blobs of paint everywhere. But it starts to look real from a distance. That's the difference. Yeah, I can say hi, Scarlett. How you doing? Can I touch it? Yeah. I do paint on wood. My larger paintings I paint on canvas or linen. And I just find that the wood is a lot smoother. So what I do is I gesso it with black gesso. And then I'll show you what they look like. Some wooden, and you can buy these at any art store. It's just a composite board, and then it has these 4 sides. And you can see it comes pre-gessoed with white gesso, which is a primer. That acts as a barrier between the paint and the wood. And then I gesso it again with black gesso, just because I find that it's easier to evaluate the value of different colors when I painting with this kind of background, which is not exactly a black. It's more of a dark gray. How did I get them to do that? You haven't been fortunate while completing your work. How did I get galleries to show my work? Well, I built up to it. So when I first started wanting to show my work in galleries, anytime I approached a gallery, they didn't want to show my work because I didn't have an exhibition history. So it's kind of a catch-22. Like, you need to show your work in galleries in order to get your work shown in galleries. And it just seems like this impossible trap that you can't get out of. So what I did was in order to build up my exhibition history, I started applying to group shows, and that were having galleries that were having open calls. And what an open call is when the gallery puts out an invitation to the public, not to their artists. There's usually a theme, and then anyone can apply, and there's usually a small fee to apply, and it's a way for galleries to raise money. Like, if they charge $10 and 1,000 people apply for this, let's say a 1-month show, well, they've already made $10,000, so it makes a lot of sense that galleries do that. And they only have to pick, let's say, 10 people to show or something like that. Anyway, there's a website called Akimbo. It's Akimbo, and Akimbo, the website, is a list of all of the galleries that are doing open calls. So you can check out that list. If there's a gallery in your area, or even if it's not in your area, and you're willing to ship your painting, you can do that too. All right, once you get into enough of those little shows, you can build up your exhibition history. And that's how I did it. How long have I been painting? I've been painting professionally. By professionally, I mean showing my paintings in galleries for 6 years now. I did painting in school, but then I didn't do anything with it. And about 6 years now. Yeah, good luck. It's really hard to get those first few shows, but once you do and you start building up your exhibition history, then it's a little easier. This is just titanium white that I'm painting here. Just adding some details into the top of this flower where I think the light might be hitting. Yeah, hello, Kim. Excuse me. Just adding some of this titanium white. Just realized there's a whole bunch of orange on this brush. That's now on my hand. That's fine. You didn't know I did art? You're self-taught. Hope one day is gives you... Oh, thank you so much. You didn't know I did art? Oh, like you just thought I did drawing tutorials? Yeah, those drawing tutorials are just for fun. They... I don't get anything from that other than the just doing it. I don't get any money or anything from those. Is this the same painting I've been painting like 2 weeks ago? Yeah, it is, but I haven't been painting it for 2 weeks. I went away for the holiday break. So I think this is maybe like day 6 or something along those lines. But yeah, I also have been, I have another one that looks very similar to this. It has a parrot. Let me see. Maybe you saw this one. Maybe you saw this one I was working on a couple of weeks ago. I don't know. Do I always draw my piece before I start painting? Yeah, I do. And that's because I plan out the composition on Photoshop before I start painting. And so I can get the movement and the balance and the composition. I don't plan out the color, but I plan out all of the other elements. And yeah, that's in order to do all that planning on Photoshop. I don't want that planning to go to waste, so I do draw everything out. Well, thanks. Yeah, how much do I sell them for? My paintings go from anywhere from about $1,500 to $10,000. Depends on the size. I also sell prints as well if you're interested in some of my art. And there's a link in the bio, and my prints are like $25. So you could check those out if you're interested. You're just graduating primary school and you're good. Oh, that's good. Keep practicing. It takes a lot of practice to be an artist. So if you're interested in doing art after primary school, just keep practicing. And you never know where your art's going to take you. You might be an artist, you might be a graphic designer, you might be an illustrator. It might be it might be nothing to do with art. It might just be that you use an artistic mindset in a different profession. But whatever it is that you end up being and choosing to do, you should know that doing art at the very least, will teach you patience and will foster your imagination, your creativity. You develop your creativity. It's only a good thing to do art. Put down your screens from time to time and develop that side of your brain that so many people tend to have maybe they don't try to develop it as much as they should or could. I see that quite often. Oh, thank you. The colors are so bright. Oh, thanks very much, Jenny. On that note, let me just say that I'm coming out with a YouTube video in the next few days that explains my particular approach to color, but also just kind of generally how color is divided into 3 different dimensions. And in this video, this YouTube video that I'm coming out with, I talk about the first of those dimensions called hue. But also in the video, I'll be talking about my particular color wheel that I use as a colorblind person. And it's this wheel here, all of these. These are the 12 part color wheel, not that regular 6-part color wheel, the additive color wheel that you always see, this blue, green, yellow, orange, red, purple, and back to blue. That 6-parter. That's the additive color wheel. Or you might see the subtractive color wheel that they use in printing with magenta and cyan, yellow and green and blue and red. But this color wheel that I use has 12 different colors. So here I can just tell you what they are. So there's yellow, orange, red, rose, magenta, violet, indigo, blue, aqua, cyan, green, and lime. And yeah, so because of being colorblind, I've had to develop a pretty intense study of colors and how they interact with each other and how temperature affects things and how opacity affects things and what complements are and so on. So yeah. Now I'm just, the next step I'm going to let that dry. I'm not done with that, but I have to let that dry for a few days now. This part I'm going to go back and do these leaves now and down here, and then I'm going to do the background next. So let's just jump right into it. For these leaves here, the three different colors of oil paint that I'll be using are here. So we have 2 greens and cyan family. This green is a good all-purpose green, chromium oxide, or in this case oxide of chromium. This is cobalt teal. This is technically not a green, it's a cyan. And then bright green lake. All of these are Michael Harding paint, which is one of my personal favorite paints to use because it doesn't have any fillers. It's just the pigment and the binder. The binder in this case is refined linseed oil. But yeah, no fillers. Some you have to be careful when you buy oil paint because especially student grade oil paint has a lot of fillers like calcium carbonate or talc, chalk. And that's so they bring their costs down, but it really can affect the quality. So you have to be a little bit careful. Just because the paint tube is big doesn't mean you're getting a lot of paint. So sometimes these smaller tubes that have no fillers are the way to go. So thank you so much for the pandas. Do I start with dark colors for the background? Well, I gesso with it's called black gesso, but as you can see, it's not black. It's just a dark gray, and so I gesso everything black, and then I use a white colored pencil. I don't know if I can find one. This is close enough. This is a 10% gray, but This is a colored pencil from Prismacolor, and I like Prismacolor or Faber-Castell's Polychromos line because they don't smear. So when I do my drawing, it doesn't smudge or smear once I put it down. If you use a colored pencil that's too soft, then the powder will go into the color of your paint, and that'll mess everything up. Yeah, thanks, Bitanim8. If you are interested more in learning about colors and different paints, I have a YouTube video just on those things, where I talk about different kinds of paints, but then also according to different budgets. So if you have a really tight budget, what are the best student grade paints that you would want to get? Because not all student grade paints are created equally. I'm do I use a medium to blend with my oils? Yeah, I only use linseed oil. I don't use, typically when you paint with oils, you should have linseed oil and a thinner. And for the thinner, you can use turpentine or terpenoid or odorless mineral spirits or any number of other things to basically create glazes out of your paint. So depending on the style of painting that I'm doing, if I'm not glazing, I don't use any turpentine or terpenoids, anything like that. I don't use any of it. I only use a little bit of linseed oil. This style of painting that I'm doing right now is not glazing. It's called alla prima, and that's the wet into wet technique. And I don't need my paint to be really, really thin for this technique, so I don't use any turpentine. Yeah, I don't use anything to dilute it. Sometimes a little bit of linseed oil, but if I'm glazing, I will. But other than that, no. Where there are galleries? I'm not sure what you mean. Post that vid, couldn't tag me because you have too many friends. Well, thank you for posting. I go with bright green lake, make it a little bit brighter underneath here. Something like this should work. And then just using the edge of this brush. I have a video on all the different kinds of brushes. If some of you are new to painting and you're interested in learning about different kinds of brushes, like flat or bright or fan or filbert, etc. Yeah, I have a video on that too. You can just check out my YouTube channel. The link is in my bio. All of my social media is Mark Liam Smith, so you could whatever you are interested in, Instagram or Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc. It's Mark Liam Smith for all of that. I'm not being super cautious about the line work here because I am painting the background in afterwards. And it always gets a little bit messed up, so I am probably going to have to come back and work on these edges again. So just from experience, I know not to spend too much time on edges at this stage. I do pastels and charcoal. I don't do charcoal. I do pastels, but not chalk pastels. I do. I use these pastels. This is Sennelier. This is a French oil pastel company, and so they look like this. And the pigment load is quite good on these Sennelier pastels, and the thing I like about them, because they are oil pastels, you can use them with oil paint. If you you can combine them, so you can do your painting with paint, and then you can use a pastel and draw on top, and it's really effective if you're going for more of a pop style, or something like a Basquiat, if you're using a lot of text in your work. That's a really good option. Oh, thank you for joining. Yeah, appreciate that. How long I've been working on this piece? Well, I started it over a month ago, but I went away for the holidays, so I have no idea how many actual easel hours I put into it. I don't know. I want to say 15 to 20, something like that. I don't know. I don't keep track too well of those kinds of things. I guess because it doesn't really matter. I'm not charging by the hour. I'm charging by size. So I had an article in BuzzFeed come out today about me. That was pretty cool. I've linked it to my Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to see that. But yeah, that was really cool. So I have never been featured in BuzzFeed before. They basically just chose a bunch of my TikTok videos. Yeah, thank you so much. I was pretty excited about that. They wrote to me about a month ago and asked if they could use some of my videos. So I knew there was going to be something at some point, but I didn't know when or what or how long or what the focus of the article would be. But yeah, I was really excited to see that. Oh, thanks so much, Gidea. If you're interested in looking at the article, you can check out my Instagram. I've linked it, or you could just go to BuzzFeed UK. Go to their Twitter page, and you'll have to scroll down because they do post a lot. But I scroll down to this morning, so about 9 or 10 hours ago. Yeah, it does feel good. Thank you. It's add some more white to this stem over here now. Just a little bit too green. And whenever you add white to something, it has two effects at the same time. One effect, that is the effect most people think about, is that it increases the value. So that means makes it lighter. But the other effect is that when you add white to something, that's called tinting. The other effect when you tint something is that you decrease the chroma of the color that you're adding white to. So chroma is a measure of a color's distance from gray. Basically how vibrant it is its chroma. It's one of the three dimensions of color. The other two dimensions are hue, which is the name of the color, like green or yellow or red, and value, which is what that color would look like if it were gray, like a mid-gray or a dark gray or a light gray. And then chroma, which is a measure of the color's distance from gray. So when you add white, you are decreasing the chroma. You're making it closer to gray, basically. What is a colorway? A colorway is a series of colors that work together for a particular piece. So if you had shoes, for example, let's say you had some Air Force Ones, some old school Nike shoes, and I asked you what's the colorway, and you might respond something like white and orange. So it's basically what colors were used as a theme for the piece, or shoes or shirt or whatever it is that you're talking about. But yeah, the colorway is the colors, the thematic colors chosen. I don't hear people say colorway too often in art. It's more of a design term. But that might just be the circles that I run into. So maybe other artists out there are using it all the time. I don't know. Just adding some highlights to this, to these leaves here. Yeah, exactly. Merch and as well as branding and clothes and things like that. This once I paint the shadow on these yellow little puffball flowers, they'll make a lot more sense. Okay, I'm going to move down now and start painting some of these. Because they're pretty much in the same ballpark. I'm going to go move into more of the teals than the greens. And of course I'll be mixing those a lot with that titanium white. You gifted? Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that. So I'll start with this one here. Going with white and teal. I'm going to use a little bit of linseed oil here, not because I want to dilute the colors necessarily, but just to increase the flow. Both titanium white and cobalt teal can get a little tacky after sitting on the palette for a few days. So if you're an acrylic painter, you wouldn't need to worry about those things because it would just be dry. Abraham, yeah, hello. But with oil paint, you can get away with, not covering up your palette for a few days. You can get away with all kinds of things that you can't do with acrylic. Certainly, if you like painting with acrylic and your favorite part of painting is blending, then you should really consider switching from acrylic to oil, because that's the weakest point of acrylic and the strongest point of oil paint is the ability to blend. And of course, the reason why it's so much easier to blend with oil paint than acrylic is everything to do with the drying time. Oil dries a matter of hours to days, whereas even weeks sometimes if it's really thick, whereas acrylic dries in terms of minutes to hours. Hours if you added a whole bunch of slow dry medium to it. But oil dries much more slowly. So if blending is your thing, go to oil. If painting over layers and doing hard edges is your thing, then acrylic might be better for you. Oil paint and oil sticks, that's a great combination. These, I would, if you're doing oil sticks or oil pastels, I would certainly recommend this brand, Sennelier. They have a lot of pigment in their pastels. So, let me show you. It's just loaded with pigment. And these you can dip them in linseed oil, and you can draw. These are a lot of fun, but they can be a little bit pricey. So it's better to ask for a present for your birthday or something like that. But that's certainly my recommendation if you're into oil pastels. Yeah, shredded dustpan you've used. Have I ever used them with coal? No, I haven't. How much would all this cost then, the art materials? How much would all what cost? Those oil pastels are about $1 each. So that's not cheap by any means. So happy to see someone doing oil painting. Oh, thank you. Yeah, if you are interested in seeing more of my oil paints, you can go check out my, there's a link in my bio, check out my online shop, because I have made prints out of all of my oil paintings from my last 2 solo shows. So there are over 40 different prints there. And some of them are really big, but some of them not so big. But yeah, if you're interested in checking out more of my work, please do. Do I use strictly canvas? No, this is not a canvas, that's a panel. How do I manage being colorblind? Yeah, so it was a lot harder when I first started painting. I had to develop the strategies that I don't rely on so much anymore. Now there's just a lot of automatic painting going on. But when I first started, I had a number of strategies. So first of all, I took meticulous notes whenever I blended. like not only what color, but how much and so on. Sometimes I would even draw the proportions of different color blends, because if I ran out of a certain paint, I could never remix it, because I just couldn't understand, or not understand, but I couldn't see. So I would take meticulous notes when I first started. I would ask people if they see any gray or any brown where I didn't want it, and so on. And then the big one is I would take photos of my work and then upload them into Photoshop and use the color picker tool. It looks like a little eyedropper. And when you click on a color with the photo picker tool, it shows you what the pure version, what the brightest chroma version of that color is, like a bright orange or a bright red or a bright green, etc. So then I would know that the nuanced or the dim, the low chroma version was actually a red or actually an orange kind of thing. So I'd use that color picker tool a lot. And but now I really studied a lot of the different combinations, and I know kind of by temperature as well what to expect. So even if what I'm seeing isn't exactly what you see, that's okay, because I know that the choices that I'm making are good choices based on color theory. So, and I can still see a lot of colors when they're very bright. When it's just when the color becomes nuanced, that's when it's difficult for me. When the color is a lower chroma color, that's when they all kind of turn into grays and browns. I have a kind of color blindness called I'm a deuteranope, which means I have a deficiency in the red and green cones in my retina. And they look like they're coming out of the painting. They will look like they're coming out of the painting once I paint the shadows on these yellow balls, but for now they're still a little bit flat. What do I mean by temperature? Yeah, thanks for asking the question. So temperature is one of the most important aspects of painting, of color theory. So I actually have a whole, I'm doing a YouTube series right now on color basics. And so part 1 comes out in a few days. So do check back up to my YouTube channel, because I talk about temperature a lot there. But for now, I'd just like to say that temperature, all colors can be divided into warm colors or cool colors. Okay. And I'll just direct you to this color wheel here. So imagine this circle here. There's basically a line there. Everything above, so orange, red, rose, magenta, and violet, those are all warm colors. And everything below that line, so lime, green, cyan, aqua, and blue, those are all cool colors. So you can tell the blues, these look like ice, and these look like fire. That's how you can kind of remember it. So those are warm, and those are cool. And by the way, yellow and something between violet and indigo, that's where the line is. And on those, you can have both. So you can have a cool yellow, that's a yellow with some green in it, and a warm yellow, that's a yellow with orange in it. So a cool yellow would be something like cadmium yellow lemon, and a warm yellow will be something like cadmium yellow deep. But after you're painting for a while, you're going to really get to know all of the different colors and what's warm and what's cool. But the important thing to know about all of this warm and cool business is that you can mix cool with cool and not affect the vibrancy of your colors. If you want to have nice, vibrant, bright colors, cool and cool can be mixed, no problem. So green and blue, no problem. Cyan and aqua, cyan and green, cyan and blue, aqua and blue, and so on, no problem. Or you can mix warm with warm. So you can mix reds and oranges, or roses and violets, no problem. The problem is when you mix warms and cools together, and what that does will then decrease the vibrancy, how chromatic your colors are, how saturated they are. They will decrease that. So if you want really bright paintings, you keep your warms and your cools separate. But, depending on your subject, you may want to decrease the saturation. Like if you're painting portraits, for example, skin tones, no matter what complexion you are, no matter what race, all skin tones are desaturated orange. I actually have a TikTok that shows how to make all of the different skin complexions based just with desaturated orange. So there is a call for it. There's a call for painting desaturated colors. A lot of landscapes have desaturated colors as well. So it just depends what you want to do with it. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, Abraham. I'm just going to keep working on these leaves down here. This is a flat brush that I'm using. So flat brushes are great because you can use the broad of it to get a nice wide stroke, or you can use the line there to make these really nice thin lines that are much easier to make than if you're trying to do it with a very small brush. Hello, Australia. Maybe you recognize all of these things. These are all native to your continent, your country. This painting itself is actually going to Australia as soon as I'm finished it. It's going to Mermaid Beach, to an art gallery called 19 Karen. You want to ask about my setup for sharing this? Yeah, sure. My painting is on an easel and my phone is on a tripod. And the tripod is almost it is in front of me, but just slightly to my left. And my palette is also to my left. It's a fairly low-tech setup. I guess the tripod's the essential thing. It's just a standard kind of $60 Best Buy tripod, nothing special. Oh, and of course it has a phone clamp on the top. Yeah, I'm a right-handed painter. I have painted with my palette on either side before. Sometimes the left, sometimes the right. Just depends on my studio setup, how close to walls I am, and so on. Oh, I hear my little 3-year-old coming downstairs to the studio. Usually he wants to say hello. And he's just learning to read now, so he likes to read the comments too. And so I will take a small break. He usually likes to say hello, so we'll be back in a moment.
Hello, Daddy.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm well too.
It's bedtime now, and many of the people that I'm saying good night, and they say what country you're from.
You want to ask the people what country they're from?
Yes,
Okay.
and say goodnight.
Do you want to stand behind the camera or do you want to go in front of the camera?
And to stand behind the camera.
Behind on this side? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, do you want to ask the people then?
No. That's lovely. Is bedtime already?
Yeah, it's bedtime, isn't it?
Yes. Hello, Betsy Prep. English here.
England.
Yes, so cute. Hello. Unit says Texas.
Texas.
Unit says night, but
What country is this?
Poland's right here.
Poland, yeah. Good reading.
I'm from Australia. It's 7:30
11:30.
in the day here.
Good job. Good reading. Look, where's this person from?
From USA, Washington State.
Good.
Mommy.
Miami,
Florida.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's good. Say goodnight.
Good night.
Bye-bye. I love you.
Bye-bye. I love you too, Daddy.
You can sleep well.
Sleep well.
He's crazy about geography. So thank you, everyone who participated in that. He asks me all day, are you going to go live? Are you going to go live? He really likes saying goodnight. Yeah, so if you are just joining, a few minutes ago I shared that BuzzFeed UK came out with a little feature about me today. So it's on their Twitter page, and it's basically 4 of my TikToks, my how to draw TikToks, kind of put together with a different intro. But yeah, that was really cool that I was featured on BuzzFeed, because I think they have a substantial following. It was nice. Thank you. How do we teach him to read? We read to him every day. My wife does most of the heavy lifting, I will admit. But yeah, we read to him every day. That's a big part. And then another part is we don't have a TV in the home. We just figured that he's going to get enough screen time when he goes to school and later in life. So we got rid of our TV, and so he doesn't have an option to look at iPads or televisions because there are none in the home. So yeah, he has traditional, conventional toys and books. No streaming, nothing. The only screen time he's allowed is FaceTiming his grandparents. He gets nothing else. Because he's only 3, and I haven't seen any long-term studies on the effects of that stuff, so we just figured he's going to get screens his whole life. No need to start him too early. I mean, I use screens all the time in my for my practice. So I'm not anti-screen by any means, but he's got a lot of time to do that kind of thing. No Sesame Street, no, nothing. No, I grew up on Sesame Street, so I know how good that can be, but no, nothing. Yeah, for sure. He's going to use a lot of... I'll teach him how to code at about probably 6. 6 years old or so. But yeah, his reading and math are fundamentals that are going to have to be developed before I start teaching him tech. Am I from Edmonton? Are you talking about my tone or my or the way I speak? I'm not from Edmonton. I did grow up in Saskatchewan though, so you might be detecting something in the accent. I live close to Toronto now. But yeah, I did grow up in Western Canada. I'd just like that to be a little darker there, so I'm gonna pull out some Mars Black. This is just regular Mars Black. I'm gonna add a little bit to the green that I've been using. The stem here. Just need to darken it up a little bit. You grew up with no TV in the home. You enjoy reading? Yeah. Well, I did. I grew up with a TV. We had 4 TVs in my home. But I enjoy reading still. It's so yeah. There's no one way to do it. I don't think, and you certainly need screens at some point. You know. You don't need a screen. You know, a 1-year-old doesn't need a screen. No judgment if you are a 1-year-old and you enjoy screens. That was a joke. To unbox your art supplies. That's fun. I love unboxing art supplies. It's really exciting. I misinterpreted your statement as well. I thought you were talking about doing an unboxing, like you put in a big order from some art supply store. When I first started painting, I wrote to Gamblin Paint, this company. This was the first paint that I used when I transferred all my student paint into professional level. Was Gamblin, and I loved them so much. It was way different for me, painting with professional grade for the first time. and I love them so much. I wrote to them and asked them if I could be their ambassador for the region that I'm in, and they politely declined the offer. I had no exhibition history and so on. They politely declined, but they did offer me some paint. So they ended up sending me a box with some paint in it, and so that was an unboxing that I've done, and that was really amazing. I had no idea what was in there, and it was really fun to receive that box. You have gesso from a tub that's 2007. Oh, I wonder if it would still be good. I guess there's no reason it wouldn't, as long as the seal is still hasn't been broken. I had some old acrylic paint that I thought was still good, and I opened it up and it was just all one big piece. So. You've never seen a live exhibition of live painting with narrative? Like this, you mean? Like this TikTok? How did I become this good in art? Thank you for the compliment. I guess I studied color theory a lot. I've done a lot of painting. I tried out lots of different kinds of painting, different ways of painting, and this way feels most comfortable for me. I've tried painting loosely. I've tried painting even tighter than this, like hyper realistically. But this is the style that kind of feels the most comfortable or the most natural for me. I think when you spend so much time in front of your easel, you have to paint in a way that feels natural to you, not in a way that maybe you think people want you to paint, or in a way that you think might sell. That's a dangerous game to play. At a gallery, have I ever seen painting live? No. No, I haven't. Actually, no, sorry, I have seen one person paint live. He's a spin artist, and I think he's kind of semi-famous now, but before he was such a famous or like a big deal. He's, like Instagram, the app follows him kind of thing. His name is Cal Schaub, and he's a Toronto artist, but he ended up getting really famous, and like Miley Cyrus bought his painting, and Instagram followed him, and kind of thing. Anyway, I saw Cal paint live when he was kind of just starting out. He's a nice guy. He gets a lot of hate online, but he's actually a really nice guy. I'm making this part darker. I'm going to switch that up. I'm going to paint over that side afterwards. Getting what you think other people want out of your head. Yeah, it can be, especially if you're trying to pay the bills with your art. That does make a big difference. Do I think an artist should read about art history? I don't think it ever hurts to study art history. It's when you use a word like should with the arts, you immediately get into dangerous territory, because a word like should is prescriptive. It talks about obviously what an artist should do, and then implied is what they shouldn't do, the opposite, and so I think that gets a little bit dangerous to use words like should when you're talking about art, because there's for every way that you could think of to make art, or that people should make art, there's somebody out there doing very well doing the opposite. There's just no one rule that you can follow that will guarantee you success, or failure for that matter. So I think if you're true to a style that you're committed to developing over the course of a couple of years, whatever that style is and whatever medium it is, whether it's sculpture or drawing, it has to feel natural to you to do it. But if you know about the history of that medium, I don't think that's ever a bad thing, because you don't have to accept the history. You can reject it, but if you don't know about it, then you may not be able to engage in that grander conversation, let's say, without knowing about the history of where you fall into place. Imagine all of art history as a large story, a large conversation, and you get to write a chapter or a paragraph or a line, however big or small your contribution is going to be. But if you don't know the wider context of the story, it might make your contribution less meaningful. So I think it's a good idea to know about art history and then choose to ignore it if you want. Yeah, thanks so much, Giddy Up. Appreciate it. Okay. Maybe some more down here. I'll be able to get to afterwards. Let me just take a drink. I don't do that enough. Maybe something here. Let's go. It's tough to find a balance between too impressionable and too rigid. Yeah, for sure. Especially when you see some amazing ideas, you want to be able to incorporate them into your work, but you don't just want to be you want to try to be as original as possible. You don't just want to take other people's ideas and make blends of them. But I think when you're starting out, copying is a really good place to go, because it allows you to focus on the form. When you think about art, you really have to divide the form and the content. And really, really good artists can marry the two. The form and the content will go together such that the content informs the form and the form informs the content. But they're different skills, and some artists are really good at form but not so good at content. It's like people that can play the piano. They can play any piece that you put in front of them if they can read it. But if you take away their songbook, they can't improvise even a simple song. So that's form over content. And then other people have this amazing ability to create content, but they're not technically skilled. Musically, Paul McCartney comes to mind. When he's such an amazing songwriter and musician, but he can't even read music. So it's kind of the same thing with painting. They're very different skills. So ideally, you can work on both of them if you're trying to improve as a painter. And so when you're copying, what you're doing is relieving the burden of content and allowing yourself just to focus on form. And that's a good way to practice your techniques. And there's a lot to practice. Color mixing, how much paint is on your brush at any one time, how to load your brush, how to mix paint. There's just so much to think about. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, so I'm going to go maybe back here. So these kind of little areas, here, I'm gonna have to do figure out what to put in here, kind of branches or something along these lines. I wish they were grapes. I really like painting grapes because of how translucent they are. But yeah, they're flowers nonetheless, so I think maybe the next one we'll paint some grapes. I haven't painted grapes in a while. Well, I have painted grapes in a while. It's just, I think 4 paintings ago I did, when I was working on that really large painting. For those of you who have been here for a few months, anyway, you'll know the painting that I'm referring to when I say A Song of Sixpence. That's currently being exhibited in Montreal right now for my solo show, Tulip Mania. So that show has, by the way, been extended until February 19th. So that's good news for me. It's almost 2 months in the gallery, or over 2 months. It'll be 2.5 months, which is quite a good time to have the whole gallery. But Montreal is really strict with COVID, so I don't think that you can actually go see the show, even if you are in Montreal, unfortunately. So let's see what we can do with these. It's totally dry. Yeah, let's see what we can get going with this. We're gonna go maybe yellow ochre and cadmium yellow. Let me just see what we have in the yellows. So instead of cadmium, I was just thinking there, I might go with Hansa. And the reason why I might want to go with Hansa yellow over cadmium yellow is that Hansa is semi-transparent, whereas cadmium is opaque. And so since I already have a lot of yellow down and I'm just trying to add some shadows, I think I'm going to go with the semi-transparent, and that way I can do something like a glaze. And then for the really kind of deeper shadows, I'll go with yellow ochre as well. Love your videos. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's go with that. We have yellow ochre deep and Hansa yellow deep. This, of course, is opaque. This one, though, semi-transparent. We're going to be using this for the glazing on top of these yellow balls here. So let's see what we have. With these two yellows, and I'm now on the warm side of the color wheel, and so I have to be very careful not to have them mix with those teals and greens that I've just put down for those leaves, because of course those are on the cool side of the color wheel, and whenever you mix warm and cool, that's like mixing matter and antimatter, and then you get a color annihilation, just left with the value, something approximating brown or black if you're lucky, but if they're perfect complements. Okay, I'm going to go with this little brush again. This is the 30 000 by Meeden. And these are fairly inexpensive brushes. You get something like 15 brushes for 20 bucks. You can get them on Amazon. But they do last quite a while. Okay, and then it's this sort of grip, handy grip there. Okay, to the yellow. Let's start with the yellow ochre, sort of darker areas, and see where that takes us. I might even go a little bit darker than that. What's going to be important with this, all of these little circles, is to make sure that they are different colors or values depending on if they're coming forward or being pushed back. So I have to remember there are a couple of different rules here. Number one is that dark recedes and light comes forward. Number two is that vibrant comes forward and low chroma recedes. So I can use those two things to my advantage to push some colors back and pull some colors forward. Do I remember you from your live where I gave you a shout out? Sorry, I don't remember. But I believe I gave, if you say I gave you a shout out, I believe it. If people ask for a shout out, I generally give a shout out. So we're gonna have to figure out where the shadows of all of these leaves are. So let's say that the lighting is pretty much straight on. Maybe a little bit to the left, and then it's going to be, so this whole leaf, this whole one here is going to be under. This one. When you're painting shadows, you have to think about the edge of the shadows too, not to make them too crisp. Kind of want to go for a blurred one. Do I go live regularly? While I was preparing for my solo show, I was going live nearly every day. But now I think this is only my second time this week. I do want to go live maybe 4 times a week. I think that will be good. But yeah, maybe like a couple of hours every day, every weekday would be a nice place to land. Sometimes you'll see me drag my finger across, and that's just to kind of pull some of the excess paint off, but also to blur the edges. That won't be the whole thing, wouldn't it? Screens aren't so bad with content like this. Thank you. Yeah, it's a matter of moderation. Everything in moderation, right? Not just for kids either. When it comes to painting cast shadows, which is what I'm doing now, it's the shadows that are cast by these leaves. You have to consider that the closer the object is that the shadow is being cast on, the darker the shadow will be, and also the crisper the shadow will be. Kind of keeping both of those things in mind. If something is right behind the object, the shadow will be quite dark and quite crisp. Yes, indeed. Moderation and curation. Well said. thank you for joining. Unmerited. I appreciate it. A little too dark on that one. Of course I can come back and if these shadows are too dark, paint them lighter. I don't want to have to do that, but it's certainly possible when you're dealing with oil paint to make those kinds of corrections like you would with acrylic paint. Oil paint's really good for corrections because you have a few different choices. You can either wipe it off, or you can let it dry and then paint over it. So you can go a couple of different ways there. A little bit crisper when it's close like this. And then it kind of blurs when it gets farther away. Do I look at anything for reference, or is this completely from your head? So when I draw the picture out, yeah, that's all from reference. And so basically what I do is I compose it in Photoshop and then draw it out, and then, but the coloring it in is from reference, is not from reference. And these shadows right now, this is just completely from my head. I'm just trying to visualize where all of these different leaves will be casting a shadow. So I'm like, hey, is that one back enough? Maybe I'll put one on here anyway, just because cast shadows are cool. But yeah, I mean, I do have a reference if I need one, but no, I'm not using it. This is just from, these shadows are all completely imagined. The rule is that the further the thing is, further back it is, the darker it needs to be, because darker things recede. And that's how I can create depth. Do I use Photoshop to create tangible art rather than reverse? Yeah, I have a basically a digital archive of different flowers and birds and pots and you name it, ceramics and things, a digital archive of things that I've come across. And when I paint a painting, I pull from those resources to create original compositions. And then once I have a composition that I like from mocked up in Photoshop, then I draw it out using this grid. I have a 1-inch grid. You can just see the traces of it in the background here. And then I draw out my subjects with a white pencil, and or near white anyway. This is a 10% gray Prismacolor Premiere, and I draw my subjects out. You can see the bird's foot outline there, and then basically I just color it in. So certainly not a technique that would appeal to everyone, but I like it. It works for my purposes. I'm just increasing the size of the brush here. Gone with a, what is this, 0? 2, oh, it's a 4. It's a 4 black. Paint some of these balls or blobs, whatever they are, that are in the background. And just remembering that rule that if something is in the background, it's darker. That's how you can show distance. Lighter things come forward, darker things recede. And also brighter things, or things that are more saturated, also come forward, and things that are less saturated tend to recede. So 2 different ways there to push objects back, especially objects that are all supposed to be the same color like this. You'd be surprised with how much color variation you end up with by doing that. I'm adding a little bit of that Hansa yellow, which of course is semi-transparent. So that's acting like a glaze. And it's just kind of slightly modifying the colors that I already have. Hansa yellow is a terrible color to put down as a first color because it's too transparent to do any good, but it's a good color to use as a glaze. If you're looking for a yellow to put down as a first color, not as a glaze, then the cadmiums are amazing. They're very thick, opaque colors. Oh, thanks so much. Maybe there's part of this one that's in the light. So just increase. Thank you. Just underneath this one. be a little bit darker. That way it separates those. Gamer Chick, thank you for the gift. Appreciate it. I'm going to go with a little bit of yellow lake here. Some of these ones, I'll bring a little bit more of that brightness back into the objects, to these little puff balls. Of course, these areas between the flowers are going to be quite dark. You just have to figure out how many of those areas I want to be more flowers, even behind. Getting a loose hair there. Don't like it when that happens because they can fly off your brush and end up sticking somewhere on the painting. They can be difficult to extract. It is one of the unnecessary and unfortunate parts of painting. It's something that happens. Will always happen, but you have to do your best to try to stop it from happening. Sometimes it's the quality of your brushes. So, nothing you can do. Oh, I'm just kind of a general light from the center. Maybe slightly to the left, but yeah, just a kind of nondescript. It's really not paying so much attention as getting the shadow somewhat close is kind of more the priority. Easy to pull off a dried on shed bristle, but hard to camouflage the hole left behind. Yes, that is true. Oh, those acrylics? No, these are oils. These are oil paints. but I'm painting with them like acrylic. That's the wet into wet. I'm not glazing. I'm not doing the Flemish 7-layer method or anything like that. This is just strictly alla prima with oil paint. By the way, for those of you just joining, if you are interested in picking up any of my art, but perhaps it's not in your budget, I have a less expensive alternative, and that is I've put over 40 of my paintings available in my store, online store. And there's a link in the bio. You can go to markliamsmith.com and you can check out over 40 different paintings there available in print form if you like. And if you do, I thank you in advance for your support. And of course, thank you to those of you watching who have already picked up a print or two or more. Your support is very much appreciated. Oh, thanks so much for the roses. Don't want to miss my videos. I'll be coming up with another video tomorrow, another how to draw video. Every so often I like to do something about painting, and I just did a impasto video, but yeah, tomorrow's TikTok will be a how to draw video, but I don't know what yet. I haven't yet decided. If you have any suggestions on what you'd like me to do a tutorial on, please do feel free to drop it in the comments. It can be basically the themes are either animals or human anatomy. Those are kind of the themes of my tutorials, but they need not be limited to that. I've done a lot of different kinds of animals. I'm obviously not running out yet, but I've done a lot. Much love from Corpus Christi. Oh, nice. That's Texas, I believe. How to draw a flower? Yeah, I think I've done how to draw a rose. I haven't done other flowers. Yeah, a flower might be good. How to draw with limited tools? Well, all of my drawings, I only use 2 pencils. And yet you don't even really need to do 2 pencils. So all of my drawings I draw with an H pencil, and then I'll do on some of them I'll also have a darker pencil, like a 2B or a 4B, and say, if you have a dark pencil or a dark marker, you can also do this kind of thing. But yeah, all my drawing videos are pretty much just 1 pencil. Yeah, hello, Puerto Rico. It's certainly a lot cooler here in Canada than in the Caribbean. Although we don't have any snow in the part of Canada that I'm in. It has all melted. It's been an exceptionally mild winter. What type of flower is this? Oh, I knew the name of it at one point, but I don't know anymore. I've forgotten. All of the plants, like these plants here and the fruit and the birds are all from Australia. They're called the fruit are quandong, and the bird is a finch. Yeah, I don't know what kind of plant it is. Am I in the Toronto area? Yeah, I'm in a little suburb, about a half an hour to 40-minute drive outside of Toronto, called Oakville. It's got a very town kind of feel to it. It has about 250,000 people, but it doesn't really feel like a city. It feels like a town. I think a lot of the people that live in Oakville also work in Toronto, because it's reasonably close to drive there. You could also take the GO train, which is the big double-decker commuter train we have. You're in Northwest Territories? Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I was in Saskatchewan over the holiday season, so it was like Northwest Territories kind of temperatures. It was like minus 30, mid-30s, and then with the wind chill, it would get into the minus 40s. I think it was even minus 52 one day. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't feel like minus 52 because you just stay in when it's that cold. Just painting this kind of darker brown between some of these lighter elements. Toronto, New York. Yeah, we do. I think you guys get maybe a little more snow. I don't know. I think it's not quite as harsh. But you also, it's more humid there in New York, because you're right on the ocean, or close enough to the ocean. Whereas Toronto, we have a lake to contend with the humidity. Yeah, London is very close to where I am. It's further south, but yeah, close. No, exactly. You don't go out in those temperatures. Some people do, of course. But yeah, you need a compelling reason to go out in -50, that's for sure. Am I thinning my colors as I'm layering them? No, not really. I'm just putting them on fairly thin. I'm not adding linseed oil. I just don't have much paint on my brush, so I'm just building up the layers very slowly. But no, I'm not really thinning them. Trying to pay attention to the locations of each of these things and basically following that rule that for things that are further back are darker or more desaturated. And just really relying on that to create my form. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, so if you guys have any votes into what tomorrow's drawing tutorial will be, drop your comments below in the box. I still haven't decided. I could do a wolf or an owl. I could do something, another human body kind of thing. People tend to want to know how to draw the eye. I already have that. Maybe I could draw the eye from a different angle. A gnarled tree. Yeah, that'd be cool. An owl. Yeah, I have an owl on my list already. I don't know if it was next or not, but I certainly will be doing an owl very, very soon, if not tomorrow. A broken soul. A 1-year-old owl person. That's funny. It's becoming a surreal story, taking on a life of its own. Yeah, so for those of you who were just joining, I was saying earlier that I received some good news in that BuzzFeed, the media outlet, featured me today on their Twitter page. They did a 5.5-minute feature, so that was pretty cool. Basically an introduction followed by pretty much 4 TikToks. Yeah, that is good teamwork. You have a beautiful name. Oh, thank you. This one's a little too dark. Shadow. Just lighten it up. Like that. Again, I'm using that amazing Hansa Yellow, which is a semi-transparent. You know, you wouldn't be able to create that sort of effect with the Cadmium Yellow, because cadmium is opaque, of course. So that's one thing that I never did pay enough attention to when I was an art student, is what colors were opaque, and what colors were transparent. Using both sides of the brush there, you saw that I had some of that yellow lake on the one side, and it was a little darker and dirtier on the other side. So I pulled the darker stuff into the sides here, and then kept the brighter yellow lake on the one side of the brush, so that I could deploy it after I had blended the center there. I'm just adding some highlights now to give these round shapes a little more roundness. Love your work. Thank you so much. Just checked out my site. Thank you. Thanks for checking it out. Appreciate that. So I have a couple of different shows on right now. I have my solo painting show on at Gallery Yoon in Montreal. And that runs till February 19th. I also have digital photography available through Treat Gallery right now. Treat Gallery is a New York gallery. And then I have some work up in at 19 Karen in Australia, in Mermaid Beach, Australia, which I think is by Brisbane, maybe a little bit north of Brisbane. So if you are in any of those areas, Montreal, New York, or Mermaid Beach, and you'd like to check out my art to see it live, of course, I don't know what the COVID restrictions are in those particular cases, but I think maybe Montreal, it's the galleries are closed. Unfortunately. So I think I'm gonna come to a close here. have some other projects I'm working on that occupying the latter parts of my evening. So I am going to draw to a close, and I will say thank you to everyone who's joined me on another live session here. I do appreciate you spending time on this Friday night or Saturday morning, wherever you are in the world. You come to TikTok for fast-paced content. So for those of you who have slowed things down and watched me paint for the last 2.5 hours, really do appreciate you spending that time with me. And if you are interested in any of my art, please do check out my website. There's a link in the bio. I'm selling prints for the cheapest ones are $25. And all of the links to the originals, the galleries, are on the website too. Okay, with that, I shall bid you adieu. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. I probably won't be live tomorrow, so enjoy your weekend, get lots of rest, and have lots of fun, and stay creative. Bye-bye.